Thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure to be with you all today, both those of you listening live and those of you who have braved the Arctic temperatures to be with us today here in our studio audience, in the beautiful gathering space at Cincinnati Public Radio's remarkable new facilities. I'm Evans Mirageas, and today we give you a preview of our summer 2026 season at Music Hall with live performances and stories. There are 4 operas in the summer season and a return of our popular studio sessions. We'll open with Salome by Richard Strauss. We'll continue with the first Black Opera Project world premiere, this one titled Lalo Vavi. We present the Orpheus and Eurydice story as told by living composer Ricky Ian Gordon in the intimate Wilkes studio. And we'll conclude with the most popular opera of all, Carmen. The relationship between 90.9 WGUC and Cincinnati Opera goes back decades, when pioneering producer and music director Ann Santon relayed broadcasts of our operas from Music Hall. Cincinnati Opera on the radio goes back even further, when WLW, the nation's station, was among the first radio stations to broadcast opera anywhere. In our case, live from the Cincinnati Zoo in our 5th season of 1924. So to start with a bit of a blast from the past, here is a rare archive recording of the prelude to Act 1 of Carmen, recorded live at the Cincinnati Zoo on July 19th, 1968. Anton Guadagno conducts the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra. Anton Guadagno conducting the prelude to Carmen with the Cincinnati Symphony, recorded live at the Cincinnati Zoo in July of 1968. Carmen concludes our 2026 season. Carmen has been part of Cincinnati Opera's repertoire since our very first season of 1920. Our performances this summer will bring the Carmen tally of performances to 181, making it the most frequently performed opera in our repertoire. Curiously, though, we haven't presented it in Music Hall in over a decade, so those soaring melodies will be making a welcome return. Speaking of which, let's jump right in with a live performance of music from Carmen. By the time we get to Act 3, Carmen has bewitched Don José, the soldier who was ordered to guard her after she initiated a knife fight in Seville's cigarette factory. He lets her escape, and he is sent to prison instead. Right after his release, he meets Carmen again in Lilas Pastias tavern. She dances for him, but then taunts him when he tries to return to duty. Matters get complicated. Don José's superior officer, Zuniga, comes in for what he thinks is an assignation with Carmen. The 2 men fight. Zuniga is subdued by Carmen's cronies, and Don José is obliged to join their smuggling band. Before all this went wrong, back in Act 1, Don José received a message from his mother, brought from his hometown by Micaela, a sweet young woman who would very much like to marry Don José. But as the plot progresses, that's the furthest thing from reality. A reality that now has the intrepid Micaela finding the mountain pass where the smugglers are ready to move their next shipment of contraband. Once again, Micaela has a message from home, but this time it is terrible news that will alter the course of the tragedy already in motion. But for the moment, Micaela, alone, sings of her courage and how she will confront Carmen, the woman who has taken her love from her. Please welcome soprano Heidi Middendorf and pianist Kirill Kuzmin for Micaela's aria from Act 3 of Bizet's Carmen.
So
Thank you, Heidi, and thank you, Kirill. Soprano Heidi Mittendorf is a graduate of Cincinnati's College Conservatory of Music, winner of the prestigious Corbett Prize, and a frequent performer with Cincinnati Opera, both on stage and in our celebrated workshop program called Opera Fusion. Heidi has already performed with the operas of Central City and Des Moines and joins us this summer for Eurydice in Orpheus and Eurydice. Pianist Kirill Kuzmin is a Grammy-nominated pianist and coach, now serving on the faculty of CCM. Kirill is in demand by the opera companies of Houston, Aspen, Glimmerglass, and Wolf Trap, among others. Let's turn our attention to the first of our historic Black opera projects. I use that adjective intentionally, since no opera company has ever engaged with the ideas of Black creativity and joy in 3 new operas over the span of 3 seasons. This endeavor engages with a diverse set of subjects and an exciting collection of creative and recreative artists. This is simply game-changing for our art form. I know I speak for all of my colleagues and those who've already so generously supported the project when I say we can't wait for the opening night of the first opera, titled Lalo Vavi. So just a bit of history to set the scene. When we were producing Porgy and Bess in the summer of 2019, bass Morris Robinson was singing the title role. One day, during the rehearsal period, I saw that he was frustrated. He said to me that Porgy was the only opera in which he was not the only Black person in the cast. Even though Porgy and Bess has death and racism, it at least presents a community. He asked, when was someone going to have the courage to create a positive story about Black creativity and community? The Black Opera Project is the result of that conversation. With initial funds for the commissions and workshops provided by the Mellon Foundation, we have been able to set in motion this epic journey. This summer, on July 9th and 11th, you can see and hear Lalo Vavi, an original Afro-futurist story of love and determination. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Once we learned that the Mellon Foundation would help us get started, who would write these 3 path-breaking operas? For me, and for my artistic and production colleagues, this has been its own journey. But we're excited to share that all 3 operas are in the pipeline, with operas 2 and 3 set for the summers of 2027 and 2028. More on that another time. For the first opera, enter again Morris Robinson, who suggested we take a look at composer Kevin Day. Morris had heard some of Kevin's orchestral music and thought he'd be an interesting choice. So I started researching Kevin's music. It was clear from the first piece I sampled, Kevin could write music of great excitement with a cinematic sweep. This is a recording of the conclusion of his piece called Dancing Fire. Final moments of Kevin Day's Dancing Fire. But could this composer write lyrically, capturing the essence of opera, which is the human voice? I needed to look no further than Kevin's lyrical melodic gift in his captivating work for solo piano as well as for chorus, but this is a solo piano piece called Breathe, played here in a recording by the composer. Breathe by Kevin Day. So who would write the story, and what would it be? Kevin had an idea from the outset that he wanted to work with poet Tifara Brown, author of a luminous debut collection called Honeysuckle. I read it and was convinced that these artists, though both new to opera, had the gifts we needed. Lalovavi is the result. In brief, the story is as follows. Lalovavi is set in 3 acts in the year 2425, following the journey of a woman named Persephone. She is the youngest daughter of Titan, the tyrannical leader of Atlas, formerly known as Atlanta, before a worldwide catastrophe. Status and wealth are divided based on the presence of syndica, a gene which promotes longevity. Life in Atlas is isolated, and rumors of a better life outside the city walls have sparked a resistance movement. To secure his power, Titan and his henchmen search for the tree of life mutation of this gene, a 1 in 100 million variation of syndica. It unlocks eternal life. When Persephone is discovered to have this key living in her blood, she's betrayed by her father and hunted so that she can be imprisoned and spend the rest of her days producing offspring. Persephone must run for her life and is thrust into an adventure that leads her to unlock her power and discover her destiny. In the course of her journey, she becomes a hero, saves the people of Atlas and the natural world as well. Early in the opera, Persephone's sister Zipporah is preparing for her debut in Atlan society. After helping her sister get ready, Persephone, now alone, begins to doubt the accepted order and wonders if there's a larger world, a greater world where her thoughts and actions would not be confined by the rigid rules of Atlas. Here is the aria for Persephone, called Night Song from Act 1 of Lalovavi, performed live by soprano Victoria Okafor and pianist Kirill Kuzmin. Persephone's Night Song from Act 1 of Lalovavi, a brand new opera about to receive its world premiere at Cincinnati Opera this summer, the first installment of the Black Opera Project. It was sung by soprano Victoria Okafor and pianist Kirill Kuzmin live here in the gathering space of Cincinnati Public Radio. Victoria is a frequent performer with Cincinnati Opera and has premiered roles in 2 of our new works, Wilhelmina in Castor and Patience and Alicia in Blind Injustice. In addition to her work in opera, Victoria is becoming a celebrated interpreter of the great American songbook and the classic songs of American film. In creating the future world of Lalovavi, our poet Tifara Brown is charting a new path. Lalovavi is sung in English as well as Tut, a living language that is indigenous to Black Americans. Dating back to the 18th century, the enslaved spoke in Tut as a way to learn English fully without slave masters' knowledge. Tut was a technology to teach literacy when it was illegal for the enslaved to read and write. The Tut language spells words using certain English phonics. These unique, orally passed Tut words were memorized in secret. Cincinnati Opera is privileged to present the first written work in history with poetry composed in Tut. The language is used by the inhabitants of the world outside the confines of Atlas. This is the land of Nunewaks, where nature has flourished again. Throughout the opera, when Tut is sung, we will have supertitles in English projected above the stage to help us understand these beautiful words. Which brings us both to the title of the opera and the other selection from Lalovavi. The title of the opera is the Tut word for love. In the world of Nunewaks to which Persephone escapes, there will be answers to many of the puzzles of her previous life. Love itself awaits in the form of a rebel Atlan soldier named Lucian. He will protect Persephone and fall in love with her. This is, after all, opera. Also, Persephone will meet her mother, Neamara. In fact, Persephone has seen and heard her mother in a recurring nightmare she had as a child. In it, the natural catastrophe that destroyed the pre-Atlas world comes to her, and the voice of her mother trying to save her is heard. In Act 2, after meeting Lucian, Persephone has another dream in which her mother appears, intoning the word Lalovavi over and over again. In this dream, Neamara helps Persephone understand her powers to move heaven and earth and how to use them to save the world. Please welcome again soprano Victoria Okafor and pianist Kirill Kuzmin for Neamara's aria from Act 2 of Lalovavi.
Gut und
That was Niamara's aria from Act 2 of a brand new opera titled La Lovavi, written by Kevin Day and Tifara Brown. Victoria Okafor was the soprano, and Kirill Kuzmin the pianist. La Lovavi debuts this summer on July 9th and 11th in Music Hall with a distinguished cast headlined by bass Morris Robinson as Titan, soprano Brittany Olivia Logan as Persephone, and soprano Talise Trevine as Niamara. It will be presented in a stunning new production designed by Stephen Kemp, with costumes by Cara Harmon. Our resident lighting designer Thomas Hassi will illuminate the worlds of Atlas and Nunumax. Director Camille Howard and conductor Kevin Miller are both making their mainstage company debuts. You're listening to a live preview of the 2026 Cincinnati Opera season on 90.9 WGUC, originating at Cincinnati Public Radio's beautiful new headquarters on Dana Avenue in Evanston. I'm Evans Mirageas, the Harry T. Wilkes Artistic Director for Cincinnati Opera. Ever since we returned to Music Hall after the renovation of 2017, we've activated the new performance space in the building called the Wilkes Studio for operas and special events. Summer 2026 is no exception. 2 studio session recital evenings are planned, as well as an opera set for June and July. The opera in the Wilkes marks a welcome return of the music of American composer Ricky Ian Gordon. Cincinnati Opera commissioned and premiered Gordon's Morning Star in our 2015 season. For summer 2026, we offer one of his most performed operas, Orpheus and Eurydice. It's a modern take on the Greek legend of a love so strong that even death cannot separate the lovers. Gordon was inspired by real-life circumstances, the impending death in 1996 of his first lover, Michael Grossi, a victim of the AIDS epidemic. As the composer watched Grossi slowly fading away, he was desperate to find a way to try and memorialize him in some way. He'd been asked by the virtuoso clarinetist Todd Palmer for a piece for clarinet and piano. Occupied by caring for Grossi, Ricky said it wasn't possible. But one night, he awoke from a feverish dream, sat down at his dining room table, and wrote out, in a matter of hours, the libretto for his treatment of the Orpheus and Eurydice legend. Now, this is an Orpheus tale with a bit of a difference. Eurydice is a soprano, but Orpheus is portrayed by a clarinetist. Eurydice speaks for her mute lover, even after her demise. Originally conceived as a song cycle for soprano, clarinet, and piano, Gordon expanded the work for string ensemble, and it's been staged as an opera many times since the early 2000s. This will be its Cincinnati Opera premiere. Ricky Ian Gordon's opera falls neatly into 2 parts, before the death of Eurydice and after. Orpheus is still a gifted musician, able to charm anything and anyone in his path. Eurydice is also just a mortal, a beautiful young woman Orpheus first sees in a field of flowers. Their love blossoms. Just before her fatal illness takes over the lives of both Eurydice and Orpheus, Eurydice sings a song Orpheus wrote for her. Please welcome back soprano Heidi Middendorf, who will sing the role of Eurydice this summer, joined by pianist Kirill Kuzmin for a live performance of Eurydice's song.
He wrote a song for her. I am part of something now. gypsy bus is, you will find the lines I've thrown. There were stars that just for me shone. Here where I have grown. But I always felt with you, my heart begins to know the way in which the world I see is me, and I am it somehow. I am part of something
Song from Ricky Ian Gordon's opera Orpheus and Eurydice, sung there by Heidi Mittendorf with pianist Kirill Kuzmin. Heidi will sing the role of Eurydice this summer. Orpheus will be portrayed by the Cincinnati Symphony's principal clarinetist, Christopher Pell. Dancers from Cincinnati Ballet, choreographed by Yoshihisa Arai, will join members of the Cincinnati Symphony, led by Stephen Mulligan. Audrey Chait directs this new production to be performed 4 times only in the Wilk Studio, July 28th, 30th, and August 1st. Subscriptions and single tickets for our season are available online at cincinnatiopera.org. You're listening to a preview of Cincinnati Opera's Summer 2026 season, brought to you live from the gathering space at Cincinnati Public Radio on 90.9 WGUC. I'm Evans Mirageas. I think I could speak for nearly all opera lovers when I say that Carmen exerts an unending fascination. Its premiere in 1875 scandalized bourgeois Parisians who were used to seeing family-friendly fare in their opéra comique. The theater was known as a place where you could take your unmarried daughters for a night of culture and perhaps a carefully arranged intermission meet cute with a potential suitor. That first Carmen audience may have seen Bizet's earlier opera, The Pearl Fishers. It's a rather silly story of two best friends in love with the same girl. But at least that opera ends with the tenor and soprano fleeing and the noble baritone staying behind to suffer an ignoble fate. Carmen was a free spirit, a woman who loved as she chose, never within the confines of holy matrimony. She values her freedom so much, she's willing to die for it, albeit at the hand of the man she seduced and taunted into criminal behavior. However, no matter how directors tell the tale, at the heart of the opera's message is the courage to be yourself, no matter the consequences. This summer, we have assembled an all-star cast on stage and in the pit for our production of Carmen. One of the most celebrated Carmens of today, Janae Bridges, returns to reprise the role she sang for us in 2021 at our historic Summer at Summit Park, our return to performance after COVID. Carmen's ill-fated lover is tenor Matthew White, who wowed audiences last summer as Cavaradossi in Tosca. Escamillo is American-based baritone Ryan McKinney, making his Cincinnati Opera debut. Opera News described Ryan as simply irresistible, with a voice that drips with gold. In the pit, leading the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra and our Cincinnati Opera Chorus, a returning favorite maestro, the Spaniard, Ramon Tebar. The production brings the action forward to the late 1950s in Havana, just before the Castro Revolution, in a set and costumes as colorful as the era was decadent. The French have had a centuries-long love of Spanish culture. Some of the best music describing Spain has been written by the likes of Ravel and Debussy. Bizet captures the heat and sensuality of Seville time and again in Carmen from the very start. Please welcome mezzo-soprano Claire Strong for Carmen's invitation to wickedness. It is the Seguidilla, where she describes the tavern of her friend Las Pastia, the delights of dance in Manzanilla, and the delights of Carmen herself.
Tous ces longs souvenirs et les vrais plaisirs sont à deux. Donc pour me tenir compagnie, j'emmènerai mon amoureux. Mon amoureux, il est tout diable. Je l'ai mis à la portière. Ma pauvre école, très consolable. Ma querelle libre comme elle est. J'ai des galons à la douzaine, mais ils ne sont pas à mon gré. Voici la fin de la semaine. Qui veut m'aimer, je l'aimerai. Qui veut mon âme, elle est à prendre. Vous arrivez ce bon moment. Je n'ai qu'à le temps d'attendre, car avec mon nouvel amant, près des remparts de Séville, chez mon ami Las Pastia, nous danserons la Seguidilla hors de Manzanilla. Tra-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la, tra-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la.
Thank you, Claire, and thank you, Kirill. Claire Strong is currently studying at CCM, where you can see her main stage debut as another very determined woman in just a few weeks. Claire will take on the role of Mrs. Lovett in CCM's new production of Sweeney Todd, a first-time collaboration between the opera and musical theater programs at CCM. Our determined Lady Carmen is on stage in Music Hall for 4 performances this summer between July 25th and August 2nd. Coming up here today at 1 o'clock on 90.9 WGUC is the weekly Metropolitan Opera broadcast. It is appropriate that it is an opera by Richard Strauss. It is his Arabella, a very civilized tale of family finances and the eventual happy ending of Girl Gets Boy. A far different Richard Strauss opera opens our 2026 season, in which money also plays a role and Girl Gets Boy, but in a very different and violent way. For the first time in over 2 decades, we offer the opera that set the opera world on fire in 1905 and launched Richard Strauss on his opera career, Salome. Strauss was already justifiably famous for his orchestral tone poems and his conducting. But his first 2 operas were duds. He then came upon a German translation of the infamous Oscar Wilde play of Salome, originally written in French for actress Sarah Bernhardt, and itself a scandal, banned from performance just before its premiere in London in the 1890s. When Strauss saw a production of the Salome play in 1902, Wilde was already 2 years dead. He was crushed by the scandal, imprisonment, and final wandering years in France arising from his ill-fated libel suit against the father of his deranged lover, Lord Alfred Douglas. German poet Hedwig Lachmann translated the original play, and the celebrated director Max Reinhardt staged it. Strauss was thunderstruck and nearly immediately started setting the play to music, merely editing Wilde's original lines. Scandal would follow the operatic Salome as well, at first. While it had over 50 productions in its first 2 years, it was forbidden in London, banned in Vienna, and famously withdrawn at the Met in 1907 after only 1 performance. It was not heard again in New York until 1934. The piece still has an electrical shock value and is one of the most brilliant opera scores ever written. Cincinnati Opera did not stage Salome until 1948, when the powerhouse dramatic soprano Astrid Varnay took the Judean princess on. It's one of those roles, however, that can be a triumph for both dramatic and lyric voices. Lyric sopranos Phyllis Curtin and Felicia Weathers sang it here, as did the dramatic soprano Marissa Galvani. This summer, soprano Catherine Lewick takes on the role of Salome for the first time, in the tradition of lyric sopranos who can soar above an orchestra. Robert Spano will conduct the 80-plus members of the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra, joined by an equally illustrious group of singing artists, including Michelle DeYoung and Chad Shelton as Herodias and Herod, both of whom have sung their roles recently at the Met. The atmospheric production with sumptuous costumes will be directed by Jose Maria Condemi, recently returning to Cincinnati as one of the members of the CCM opera directing faculty. Briefly, the story adapted from the Old Testament is as follows. On a warm night in Judea, Herod, obsessed with Salome, the daughter of his second wife, offers her anything if she dances for him. Imprisoned in his palace is the prophet John the Baptist. Salome has already met the prophet, and he has rejected her unholy advances. Salome dances for Herod and demands her reward, the head of the prophet on a silver platter. Her wish is granted, and as she cradles the gruesome object, she sings of her triumph over the haughty prophet. Herod's revulsion over this spectacle has him order the guards to crush Salome to death with their shields. All of Strauss's amazing orchestration skills are brought to bear in telling the tale, nor more so than in the Dance of the Seven Veils, the orchestral interlude that sets the final tragedy in motion. This is the finale to that dance, as recorded by the Cincinnati Symphony and its beloved music director of the 1970s, Thomas Shippers. Recorded in Music Hall in 1976, the Cincinnati Symphony played The Dance of the Seven Veils by Salome by Richard Strauss. Thomas Shippers was the conductor. This summer, for 2 performances only, Cincinnati Opera opens its season with its titanic opera Salome on the evenings of June 18th and 20th in Springer Auditorium at Music Hall. My thanks again to you, our studio audience, our artists Heidi Middendorf, Claire Strong, Victoria Okafor, and Kirill Kuzmin, to my Cincinnati Opera and artistic and production colleagues Jane Hulbert, Audrey Chait, and Lila Furlani, and a heartfelt thanks to our friends at 90.9 WGUC for hosting us today for this special live broadcast previewing Cincinnati Opera's 2026 season, our 106th year of presenting opera in Cincinnati. Special thanks to the engineers who made this live broadcast possible: sound engineer Brian Neese, chief engineer Will Staffen, WGUC board operator Michael Grayson, and vice president of content Janelle Walton. In just a few moments, the only opera company in America older than us, the Metropolitan Opera New York, takes to the air with more music by Richard Strauss, his 1933 romantic comedy, Arabella. As I mentioned, Oscar Wilde wrote the play which became the libretto for Salome. He visited Cincinnati 3 times in 1882 during an historic barnstorming 1-year lecture tour across America. His lectures extolled a renaissance in English art, but the words he used to close nearly all of his lectures were a universal plea for the value of art in our lives, and I'd like to close with them today, and I quote, "Love art for its own sake. The devotion to beauty and the creation of beautiful things is the distinction of all civilized nations. It is what makes the life of each citizen a sacrament and the life of every people immortal, for beauty is the one thing time cannot harm. Philosophies melt away like the dawn. Creeds follow one another like the withered leaves of autumn. But beauty is a joy for all time, a possession for all eternity. Wars and the clashing of arms and the meeting of men in battle must be always. But I believe that art, creating a common intellectual atmosphere between all countries, might, if it could not overshadow the world with silvery wings of silvery peace, at least make the men such brothers as they would not slay one another. Mighty empires must rise and fall, but the empire of art shall never be conquered." Thank you.